leave it. Just come. Let me see. It's somebody who
Minister of the gospel and the anchor of all the saints. But don't bother mentioning church because we are talking of a sensitive.
All right, good afternoon. Welcome to Happy Family R on 92.9 FM. And I am your radio homegirl, Ruth Ohams. Okay, so we're also live both on YouTube and of course on Facebook. There was something that happened was it last week where a lady was actually expressing what happened in her relationship, talking about she's been married traditionally, um, but then the fiance or her husband, because already the bride price has been paid, everything has been done, asked for intimacy in what we call, or our former president would say, the other room. You all know what I'm talking about, sex. But she said, no, you're not yet married. Like, we've not done our white wedding, so you can't ask me to do that. It is, unless we've done the white wedding, that's where you can start talking about intimacy. And the man who was asking the question, I mean, the interviewer was so baffled with what he heard. He said, but this man has paid your bride price, right? She said, yes. And he has done all the marriage rights. She said, yes. Okay. Now, it actually sparked reaction on social media. Lots of people saying that traditional marriage is the most important marriage, while some others said white wedding is the most important marriage. So if you were married traditionally and you've not received the blessing in the church, you can't say that you are married. What others are saying that so far the man has paid for your bride price and he has done the whole traditional rites. You can't say that you are married. So we want to, settle this once and for all. I've got two relationship experts. They are great men. I've got one a lawyer and one a man of God. I'll start with Reverend Dr. Daniel Madubwese. He is a preacher and, of course, a minister of the gospel. Your spouse and you and your spouse. He's a convener of you and your spouse. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you very much.
And
good afternoon, my listeners.
Okay, and we've got barrister Chukwedozie Agunechemba. He is the principal partner of Bowland Chambers, located at number 115 Jubilee Road. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, listeners.
You're all white. You're in all white today. What happened today?
Well, that is the way it is.
Okay, you're looking so immaculate this afternoon. All right, so let's look at this particular discussion that has been trending on social media. I want to ask, first of all, what is marriage and what constitutes marriage? When we talk about marriage, what are the things that constitute marriage before we get into the white wedding and the traditional wedding saga? Okay, so let me start from you, Reverend Dr. Daniel. What exactly is marriage?
All right. By form of definition, marriage is the coming together of a man and a woman for the purpose of companionship and procreation.
Okay.
So by that definition, it means that for marriage to take place, there has to be agreement between a man and a woman. Mm-hmm. And then their parents or the ability of the parents, and also a token need to be paid.
Okay.
And lastly, the consummation, which has to do with the ordering as you mentioned.
Right.
These are the 4 elements that makes a marriage authentic, biblically, historically, and also socially. 4 elements must be the agreement between the 2 parties. Secondly, the parents or whoever that represents them has to be aware, and then thirdly, there has to be a token payment, and lastly, there has to be a consummation of marriage. If any of these is not there, then the marriage is nowhere constituted.
Okay, so let me ask you about that.
Well, the Reverend is right. He captured it in a summary. For me, marriage can be taken from 3 angles. You look at it from the secular angle. You look at it from the spiritual angle. Then you look at it from the legal angle. Now, from the traditional angle, there's the secular angle. He captured it very well. Marriage, occurs when there's an exchange of bride price. See, once that exchange is made in the presence of elders, or those who can ascertain or witness to it, including the parents of the spouses, then one can say that marriage has effectively taken place traditionally. Then when it comes to the Bible, we know that in the book of Genesis, chapter 2, verse 24, the Bible made it very clear that a man shall leave his father and mother and shall cleave to his wife. Once that is done and they become one flesh, God sees both of them as been married. Then from the legal angle, then we will pick up the definition of marriage from the Same-Sex Marriage Prohibition Act of 2013 that defined marriage. Clearly states that it is a union between a man and a woman. This distinction is very important, particularly in Nigeria. It is a union between a man and a woman who have complied with the requirements contained in the Marriage Act or in any native law or in an Islamic law. So once that requirement is complied under the Marriage Act between a man and a woman, that union is referred to as marriage in the eye of the law. Of course, that means if you look at the Marriage Act and the Matrimonial Causes Law, you will discover that if that is the definition, the legal definition of marriage, the marriage must contain 3 basic elements. One is that there must be ability of the parties to legally, unite in marriage. They must have what we call legal ability, to become a couple. I will explain that later. The second is that there must be consent between the 2 parties. Then the third is that they must comply with the law currently in force as in that particular country, as in this case, Nigeria. Now, going to the first requirement, the legal capacity. An example of not having a legal capacity is where people, for instance, as it is, if you look at the the Child Rights Act, the Child Rights Act of 2003, particularly Section 21, you will discover that there's a clear definition of who can marry, at what age can you marry. That law says that if you marry below the age of 18, that marriage is void ab initio, which means you did not marry. So you cannot marry under the age of 18. So a person who is under the age of 18 does not have legal ability to marry. It does not matter the intentions of the families. Once you're under 18, whether male or female, you do not have the legal ability, the legal capacity to go into marriage. Then another legal ability is what we refer to as consanguinity or affinity. Now, consanguinity has to do with blood relation. You cannot marry your sister in Nigeria. It is prohibited. So once you do that, it is not called marriage in Nigeria. Another one is affinity. An in-law, a brother-in-law cannot marry a sister-in-law. If you do that, it's also prohibited in Nigeria. Except, this one has an exception, except when the court permits you. There are instances where the court can permit you. For instance, if the sister-in-law is already pregnant, under such a circumstance, you may approach the court to permit you to marry her. So once the court permits it, then under affinity, but under consequently, there are no exceptions. Once you're within the prohibited degree of consanguinity, it is not allowed. So that, in a nutshell, simply shows that marriage is a union between 2 individuals.
There was something you said about consent. You can remember sometimes, there could be matchmaking.
Yes, when I refer to consent, is what I simply mean is that one, if you marry somebody under duress, you cannot really expect that person to have genuinely given his consent.
Okay.
That is number one. Then secondly, if you marry somebody that is of unsound mind, somebody who is mentally ill, somebody who is mentally ill under the law cannot give his or her consent, because he or she is not in a position to do so. Then secondly, if you marry by deception, maybe somebody thinks he's marrying Philomena, while actually the person he ended up marrying is Neka. That is not true consent. So that ingredient of consent must be present, or else marriage, did not occur.
Okay, so I would love to ask, traditional marriage, white wedding, which is more important? Which one do you think takes preeminence? Because there are people who say that if you are married in the church, and sorry, if you're married traditionally and you've not done white wedding, you're not fully married. But I could remember that some of our parents actually got married traditionally without even having the white wedding, and they are still together even till today. While some people would say that once you're married traditionally, that is it. You don't even all you need. The white wedding is just blessing from the pastor. So I would want to know from you, culturally, religiously, and religion wise, and society. By the way, also going to be talking about the legal angle also, and let's look at it from these angles: white wedding, traditional marriage, which is more important.
Let me start by saying that the concept of white wedding is alien to the culture of our people.
Okay.
And also, a thorough study of the scripture also shows that the concept of white wedding is also alien. Now, I'm going to balance it later.
All right.
The reason is that when you look at all the marriages that took place in the Bible, starting from the time of Adam to the time of Abraham, looking for a wife for the son, Isaac through Eliezer, Damascus, up to the time of Jacob marrying Rebecca, up to the New Testament when Jesus Christ went for the wedding tradition. None of them took place in the synagogue, nor in the church.
Okay.
None of them took place. Secondly, among all the requirements of the Bible for a minister, a pastor, both that which Paul gave in the book of Second Timothy, the one he gave to Titus, the one he gave in the book of Corinthians, which I can give you the verses, none of them requires that a minister, a pastor, should conduct wedding specifically.
Okay.
Now, that is not to say that conducting wedding in the church is wrong, because these are two believers who have come together as husband and wife, and they seek for the blessing of the church, of the pastor. Now, can you believe that until 1565, the government of England does not require that marriage as an institution is as old as mankind. So what has been happening prior to 500 years, it is what we need to understand. Now, it is not wrong that they decide that the pastor will bless them. Then, where I usually say when I'm approached with this is, whatever the organization that you belong to accepts, puts as their law, you are duty bound to obey it. Otherwise, you pull us from that organization. So the aspect of it being right or being wrong is not, we will not say it's right or wrong, but what does the church that you belong, what is their constitution? What do they believe? So it's now church based. Because
the traditional marriage and the white
wedding.
White,
which one is well? Which one can you do without? Which one is but generally speaking, by my definition earlier, you discover that the four things required there, none is to be done in the church. The consent of the party, consent of the parents, the token, and also the consummation, which is the bed. These four, which makes marriage perfect, which makes marriage complete. None is required to be done in the church.
Okay.
So that being the case, when a man sees a woman and they approach the parents for all the traditional rites, and it is viewed before God that they are married.
Okay.
That they are married. Now, the aspect even in the church, I conduct wedding. The first question goes is, has the parties fulfilled all the customary requirements of your people? If no is the answer,
you need to go back and
they need to go back. The marriage must pause at that point, meaning that they are not yet married. We don't marry, we bless marriage. We bless marriage. The marriage has taken place, and then the pastor blesses it. But then if your church says that until we bless your marriage, like we're going to see some importance of white wedding, we call marriage church blessing as we go on. So if your church says that until we bless your marriage, we won't recognize you as married people, then you must have to follow that instruction. Otherwise, you leave the organization.
Okay, this is a very dicey one. It's a very dicey one. Let me hear from you, the barrister, the learned gentleman in the house.
Thank you so much. Taking it from the legal point of view, first of all, one will consider whether native marriage, that's traditional marriage, whether it is valid in the eyes of the law. The simple answer to that is yes. If you look at Section 35 of the Marriage Act, it clearly provides that customary marriage is valid. In fact, it even went further. It said, look, if after customary marriage and you go ahead to marry under the act to a different person other than the person you married in under customary marriage, that's the commandment of God through your traditions. You know, any tradition that claims to be superior to the commandment of God, that tradition is null and void. Yeah, I'm talking about as Christians. You know, I'm no longer talking under the law. I've said it is valid. You see, it is recognized by law, and there are consequences if you go ahead to ignore it. Now, having said that, but as a Christian, there are traditions that you are expected to comply with. There are traditions you're expected to comply with, and God made it clear in Matthew chapter 15, verse 3. And even Paul stated so in 2 Thessalonians chapter 3, verse 6. He says, we have a tradition as Christians. And that tradition, one of the basic traditions we have as Christians, is that we conduct white weddings. We conduct white weddings because we believe in the union of two persons by God, not by man. We believe that traditional wedding is a union by man. That is why your parents are required, the elders of the village are required. But when it comes to God, it is the man of God. When it comes to wedding, it is the man of God that is required. And secondly, we put on white when we go for white wedding. Why do we put on white? It's because of chastity. It's because of chastity. We are demonstrating that we still have not consummated the marriage. So as a Christian, you go ahead to consummate the marriage and now put on white. It defeats the purpose. Because the essence of the white is to say, I've not had sex with my partner. Simply put. So in 2 Thessalonians chapter 3, verse 6, it is made clear that the church has a tradition. It is up to you to comply with that tradition, or you move away from the church. Remember, traditional marriage is valid. The question is it valid for a Christian? If you're a non-Christian, it is valid to you. Of course, even if you have sex before the traditional marriage and afterward, under secular terms, nobody's going to judge you.
So, in other words, you're saying that white wedding is more important than traditional marriage?
Depending on from where you're coming from. If you are coming as a born-again Christian, then white wedding is is very important. Because the union, you believe that the union is done by God. And it is the man of God who in a way represents God, that can say, okay. And remember, in white wedding, it comes with vows. Unlike traditional weddings, sometimes some of them don't come with vows, except you carrying the cup of wine to your husband, and that is all. But in white wedding, you are expected to make a vow, and you're making that vow in the holy temple before God. You know, you're saying till death do us part, and it is unconditional. You must comply to it. You see, so white wedding in that sense is superior. And let me also point something out to ladies. I'm a lawyer, so I know that traditional wedding does not really help ladies. It does not help women.
Oh, really?
Yes. Let me point it out. One good thing about traditional wedding is that it puts you in good standing with the tradition. You know, because you comply with the traditions of your village. That is very good. And also, traditional wedding is cheaper. If you look at it in a way, traditional wedding is cheaper. But having said that, and also that one cannot actually have white wedding without first of all having traditional wedding. The Christian tradition is also that you must undergo the traditional wedding with the consent of your parents before you can move on to the next level of having white wedding. So apart from these examples of its benefits, the other aspect is that it does not actually benefit the female spouse, because one is that traditional marriage is polygamous in nature. That's traditional marriage simpliciter, without any interest of furthering it to white wedding. You notice it's polygamous in nature. For instance, if somebody marries you by traditional custom, he is at liberty to marry another person. He is. But under section 370 of the criminal code, if you marry under the act, which is not a traditional marriage, and decide to marry another person, you will go to jail for 7 years. So you discover how it favors the woman, because the woman is protected under white wedding, but it's not protected under traditional marriage. Then the second thing is that under traditional marriage, the woman's role is already fixed. You are more or less that of a housewife, a homemaker, But under the white wedding, the role of the woman is flexible, because you're considered an equal partner to your husband. So the role is flexible. In fact, in most traditional marriages, your husband can ask you to sit down and go to work, and the elders will approve it. But in the current, you discuss with your husband, with your wife, what is of her interest. So the bottom line is that if I'm asked to make a choice, for my sister, I will encourage her to marry under the act of the white wedding.
First, before the traditional marriage?
No, both, because you cannot have white wedding without the traditional. That is the good thing about the church tradition.
Doesn't that mean that the traditional is now more important than the white wedding?
No,
because if you say you cannot have the white wedding without the traditional marriage, it's simply saying that this is very strong, it's very important.
No, we're not saying it's not important, but we're saying that if you place them par to par, as a Christian, which one will you value more? The union of God or that of made by man? And as a Christian, you will ordinarily value a union made by God than that which is made by man. As a tradition in Christianity, you're not allowed to go into a union made by God if you have not done that made by man. That is the tradition. That is why if you go to the church and they discover you've not done your traditional marriage appropriately, they will send you back. So first of all, be united by the men, that's by your parents and the elders. Then you will now come for the union of depending on the church, union made by God. You see, in which case now begin to make those vows before the Holy God. That's the requirement. It's like saying that there are two steps. Does not make the first step more important than the second. That is not really it's just like saying primary school is more important than secondary school. It just doesn't.
But the primary school is the foundation.
Yes, but
it's very important. That's why you get everything right.
What we have issue is the word important. The two are both important.
Yes,
they are very important.
I asked that. There are people who think we are living in a real world. This is reality. Some people will say, let's just continue our lives. We've been traditionally married. Some people place more importance on the traditional marriage. Some can wait for like 5 years before even going for the white wedding or church wedding. You understand? Because they believe, so far I've paid your bride price. You're already my wife. You can come and stay in my house. You already I've bought you over. That's what I'm asking, which is more important? But he is saying, as a Christian, the white wedding is more important.
The aspect of what your church allows also plays role. Because I know some churches that they don't frown at people
Couples.
who have been wedded traditionally living together. There are churches that are strict to that. That until you come to church for church blessing over your marriage, you shouldn't.
But as a Christian, I'm not asking. This is not church. I'm asking as a Christian. That's when we'll not get to the sex part.
I think the barrister have said a lot about the importance of white wedding, and with having in mind this importance, every couple who are Christian should endeavor to be wedded in the church, because that aspect of vow very, very important. And the mindset that you are taking this vow before God is also the fact that one more thing about the white wedding is that it gives you coverage where to run to in case you begin to have problems. Very readily. Somebody who's pretends over a spiritual work, who you can always run back to. And that's why, like church where I belong, you need to go through processes in the church even before the white wedding is conducted. That gives you better opportunity to understand the concept of marriage and also where to come, to run to when you begin to have issues, as it were. Plus the fact that the truth is that, for instance, when you are going for traditional wedding, you pick some few persons, you went to the village, and few persons comes and they you do it. Some people do traditional wedding, people don't even know about it. But when you do white wedding, there is wider coverage, more eyes are on you, and then people hold you responsible as you walk on the street. Sir, I saw you were there the other day. Who is this you are walking on the street? So the society's eyes are more on you to checkmate excesses.
So it's more of the society. Society places more importance on the white wedding. Okay, we shall be going on a break. When we come back, it's still Happy Family Hour on Magic 2.9 FM. Now, you, my listener, who actually have the, you will be participating in the show, on the show by just calling the studio phone lines, commenting. If you're live on Facebook, comment, or maybe you're live on YouTube, you can still comment. So let's know what you think about this white wedding traditional marriage, because this will actually lead to the aspect of sex after trad. Is it right or wrong? Or should we wait until we actually have wedded in church before we can actually consummate our love? Be a Family by Sister Sledge coming up right now. It's still the Happy Family Hour on Magic 2.9 FM. I'll be right back.
Challenge the commandment of God.
Yes.
And when there is that clash, what do you do? There's no express what was saying about what happens on traditional wedding. And you never make mention, not mention that it has to be, the blessing has to be done in the church. Look at some of the things, if we are going to base on the Old Testament, after Jacob married two sisters, but today we know that it's prohibited degree of consanguinity. Nobody's going to allow you to marry two sisters. Jacob married a maid. Imagine you marrying your maid. It's an abomination. But these things are happening. They happened in the past. That doesn't mean we need to continue with it.
Correct sound.
Are you ready? You're listening to
Magic
102.9 FM.
All right, welcome back. It's still on to Happy Family Hour on Magic 102.9 FM with your radio home girl, Ruth Ohams. And we've been talking about traditional marriage, that's the African or customary marriage, versus the white wedding, church wedding, which is more important. Some people place priority on the track, while others place priority on church wedding. And of course, we have Reverend Dr. Daniel and the barrister Chukwedozie Agonechemba talking about this, dissecting the issues. And very soon we shall be opening our phone lines and of course a comment section for you to be a part of the discussion. So you can move on to Facebook and drop your comment, or we're live on YouTube, you can go there and drop your comment. Okay, so before we get to opening the phone lines, the studio phone lines, what triggered this conversation was a girl who was actually married. She's been traditionally married, and so the fiance or the guy in question asked for consummation of their love, sex, and she said, "No, I can't do that until we are married in church. That's a white wedding, blessing from the pastor, and before the people of God, where we make our vows." And the guy's like, "But I've paid. I saw your parents. I came with my kinsmen. We collected the lease. I fulfilled every rights there. So why would not tell me that I shouldn't at least as your husband today?" Now the woman said, "No, we've been half married." That was when I learned that that phrase. I never knew we have full married and half married. And she said, "I'm half married. I'm not fully married to you." So the interviewer was like shocked. He was like, "Are you okay?" Because the man, he was like, the man was surprised at what she was saying. And the man is saying, "So you're saying that if you're traditionally married, you're not married?" She said, "No, I'm half married. I'm not fully married." So, sex after traditional marriage.
Well, I want to say, just like many things as a relation counselor, there are many.
But before we get into that, what do you think played out from that story? Your take on what happened, because now the marriage has crashed.
My take on that and what happened is that they didn't do the right thing during courtship.
Okay.
If they had done the right thing, because courtship is a time that you get to know your wife or husband to be, and also you discuss certain matters.
Okay.
Matters like where are you going to settle after marriage? Matters like how many children would we want to have? Matters like are we going to go for tradition for white wedding or not?
All right.
Such matters need to be discussed prior to the traditional wedding.
Okay.
Because any matter that is not discussed prior to that traditional wedding, whatever that comes out there becomes it can draw down the marriage.
Okay.
So I want to also counsel our intending couple, take time to talk about these things, because if they had agreement over this matter before the traditional wedding, this wouldn't have come out to play.
Okay.
So that is where I fault
There was no discussion, no conversation, no
There was
agreement.
no agreement.
Okay. So let me ask you, Barrister, before we get into the sex after trial.
Well, it all boils down to value system.
Okay.
See, if you don't have the same value system with your husband, or you don't have the same value system with your wife, there's likely to be friction. You know, things that the same value system would have cured ordinarily will come up, and they will become a very big problem in that family. It's unfortunate that this led to the crash of the relationship. It ought not to, if they have had the same value system. Now, what do I mean by the same value system? If they believe in the same culture, if they practice the same religion, imagine if both of them attend the same church.
Okay.
Yes, imagine if both of them attend the same church, I mean religiously, and comply to the tenets of that church. This question will not even come up, because the law will be set by the church as to what happens after traditional marriage. If your church is the kind, just like my church, is the kind that clearly states no sex after traditional marriage until you have done your white wedding, your wife will not come up with the idea of let's have sex. Neither will you come up.
It was actually the man that came up with the idea.
That's what I'm saying. I'm talking about myself.
All right.
So I'm saying my wife, who is also a member of my church, will not come up with the idea of let's have sex after traditional, knowing fully
She already
well
knows
what.
the rules.
Yeah, exactly. That's the point I'm making. She already knows the rules. The same thing applicable to the man.
Okay.
If both of them have the same religious value system, that question will not even come up. So the argument will not even lead to such an altercation that they will now have to separate and divorce over such irrelevant matter.
Trivial.
I mean, it's so trivial, because even if you don't have sex now, I mean, you are going to have an English wedding maybe within the next 4 months. Something you've been waiting for a very long time, and you know it's going to be for life. Except you don't want to marry her for life. It's something that you're going to do for the rest of your life. But you keep doing it until you get tired of her. So why not wait for the next 4 months? If that is really what she wanted. She wanted to go into the hall as with the chastity that she has. I mean, it's honor even to you as a man that if that is what your wife wants, that she wants to go into that hall, a very chaste person, a man or that should be proud of it.
Okay.
I've also advised a couple to ensure as much as possible that there is the time frame between their traditional wedding and their white wedding doesn't get so. When you're planning for traditional,
Also plan for white wedding.
White wedding at the same time as much as possible. So that imagine if it's to be one week gap between the traditional wedding and this matter wouldn't have come.
So there was something you said, Barrister, I'm going to chamber about being married in the same church. Does it mean that people cannot marry from different churches?
No, they
because
can.
this is the man now, and there's a saying that a woman does not have a church until she's married.
No, the point I was trying to make is the value system, not necessarily. Of course, there are many churches that have the same beliefs. For instance, if you look at the Catholic Church and the Anglican Church, their beliefs are virtually similar. If you also look at the Winners and Christ Embassy, their beliefs are virtually similar. If you look at the Lost Chosen and Deeper Life, their beliefs are virtually similar. It's not like you cannot marry from one church you cannot marry one church. Even
let me say two churches that don't have the same ideology and doctrine. You cannot marry from that church.
No, you can, but it's dangerous. It's dangerous if you don't have the same value system with your wife. It may not even be sex. It may be something else. And I've seen cases. In fact, there was one I entertained in my office of the woman telling the man that I cannot continue with this acts because they are not known. They are alien to me, even though I'm a Christian. I was not brought up that way.
Okay.
You understand that? And if you look at the woman's reasoning, she's making a point. And if you look at the man's reasoning, he is also making a point. It's just that both of them are from two entirely different backgrounds.
But should a woman, I was taught that a woman should submit. At least if you're getting married, two is now, they've become one, right? Now, don't you think also in that case, the woman should have there should have been a compromise at some stage, at some point?
Yes, I understand. Amos chapter 3 verse 3 says, and two work together except they agree. And also, like where you quoted Ephesians chapter 5 verse 22, that says the woman should submit to the man. there are things that are very difficult to submit to. I'm sorry to say that.
Okay.
That is why courtship is necessary.
Maybe
So
one
you
day
discover
we'll-
whether you
but
can
the act of
actually
submission.
submit
That's-
or not.
If that is actually discussed during courtship,
Exactly.
that was that.
Okay.
This is who I am. I'm a cherubim. I'm a Lumba
this way,
Udumba
yeah,
Udu.
from this
I
way,
am
right.
any
That's
church.
why
and
don't really need to mention churches.
Okay,
So
so-
don't really come after us and say, hey, this is it.
So
Okay.
there has to be discussion.
Okay.
Look at my spiritual background. This is what I believe. This is what I practice. I
Mhm.
hope it is good with you.
Yes.
Say no, this is not good with me. So Bible say, that is why when Abraham wanted to get a wife for his son, he says,
Go.
"Get back to my land."
Mm.
People who have the same
Value
value
system with me.
so that you'll be able to look at some of these things and not have problems.
And to add to your point, when Esau disobeyed and now married a Canaanite, if you look at the Bible says that that woman was a thorn in Rebecca's flesh.
Okay. Okay, we shall be opening the full lines 0907 677 1029, 0916 988 1029, and not forgetting 0809 666 1029. Those are the numbers to call to be a part of the discussion. But let me read out the comments here. Okay, we have a call. Let's take this call. Hello. We are fine. Good afternoon. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Pastor. Good afternoon.
So good afternoon.
I just sit and cross my legs to listen to now today. My name is Moira.
Welcome, Mara.
Important. Thank you. My dear sister, when Barista they talk that time, they talk say church day, tradition day, say Islamic day. Look, I tell you the truth. I never see religion being this selfish like Christianity. Maybe it is.
Please, what did you say? You've never seen a religion as selfish as Christianity. Wow. Okay.
Maybe because of church doctrines, we don't carry rope, tie ourselves, blind our eyes. My dear sisters, for Islamic marriage, the people go gather. Now that place when they pay the dowry, now that same place, now they go join them Islamically. And other religious believers don't see. Why they say Christianity go carry rope, tie themselves? What did they buga for? What did they claim for? My dear sister, marriage matter no dey easy, especially for Igbo land. I be Igbo. We don't run around do list finish thing, spend money there. Then you come carry another time again, come start again. When they do waiting, they run for church waiting. They swear for us. My dear sister, it hard when they say if you be member of a church, you dey plan your marriage. Your church no say they plan your marriage. It hard for the church to follow you go the girl place that they pay the dowry fee, they go do the wedding there. Everything go die, that thing happen. Let us tell ourselves the truth. Now we dey do ourselves. Now we dey do ourselves. I believe say if that pastor when they if you be a member of what do they call them camp, Christian Association of Nigeria or Pentecostal Fellowship of Nigeria, if I'm not mistaken, let them sit down, go back to the drawing board. They should remove this stone when they carry up type for people's neck.
Okay, Myra, thank you. Thank you so much, Myra. Thank you. Thank you. Hello, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, welcome. Your name and where you're calling us from.
My name is Chief from Abayi.
All right, go ahead, sir.
It appears to me that the two gentlemen in the studio, they are not Igbos. If they are Igbos, Igbos they are known that if you want to marry somebody, then the woman must go to their place, take the bad price, and take away your wife, and live with your wife and continue your life with her. Going to the church is going to marry the wife the second time. And this is an island to work. Because even in the Bible, I have not read anywhere, even when Jesus attended the marriage ceremony, where my wife was paid separately and their wife wedding. This is a culture of the Europeans. And the Europeans I know, US, whether US,
man's tradition. Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your contribution. Thank you. Okay, we've got someone else right here. Hello, good afternoon. Welcome. Your name and where you're calling us from. Okay, go ahead. Goody, goody.
Okay, I want to ask the people that in the studio, they say that if you marry from the church, that means you are married from the God. But if you are married from tradition, you are married from the parents. So that means if somebody is not a pastor, you are not from God. Because I don't understand the quote. You are the man said that the church one is from God. You are the tradition is from the parents. So that means that one is not from God. I don't understand because the olden days, even the Bible, when the Bible came, does it mean that Abraham, they marry wife, they do wife worship? Or the one they don't do that time is not from God? Because I don't understand the one you said that if you marry from the church, that means you are married, you have money from God. That is the God way you are done. But the tradition is man between your family and the other family. So I don't understand what he's saying.
Okay, goody, goody. Yeah. Your parents cannot actually stand it. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I understand. I think that will go to Barrister. I think that will go to Barrister Chairman because he was the one who said that. So let's hear from you. But let's take this call. Then now you have to answer. Goody, goody, no bad. Hello. Yeah, good afternoon, sir. Welcome. Please move away from your radio. All right. Okay. Okay, sir. Go ahead.
Marriage that when both parents agree and the bride side is said they are married, then why do we go to church for white wedding? So to make people who are not there, who are married,
Okay. To come.
so
A second chance. Okay. Okay. Hello, are you there? Hello, are you there? Okay. Okay.
they go to church to make brethren, those who do to us when we are at home. And that's
Okay, call me back. Okay, call me back. Hello. Yes. Yeah. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Welcome. Your name and where you are calling us from.
Traditional marriage. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So that was very. I think we have two questions now. The first one is, how come you're saying that white wedding is from God and traditional marriage is from the parents? And do the Europeans perform traditional marriage? That's hello. Yes, quickly. Your name and where you're calling us from. Good afternoon. Go ahead, sir.
okay.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay, the issue of what wedding and the traditional wedding, how do you look at in the Bible, the Testament? When the God wants his mother's village and serve his mother for 7 years, after 7 years, serve another 7 years, after making for 2 years, then after that 7 years, the father of the 2 wives, the father is family members and they do everything traditional and just in 2 years to him. You tell me what was in that place?
Okay. Okay. All right. So I think we have 3 questions. Let's answer the question. We can't take more calls until the questions are answered. So, Reverend Dr. Daniel and Barrister Agune Chamber. I think the first you have to answer that you said that white wedding is from God. So I think that's the first question is for you. So please.
It's all right. If you take a look at Genesis chapter 24, particularly verse 52 and verse 53, you will discover that what occurred in that those 2 verses were actually traditional marriage. There was nothing like white wedding in the Old Testament.
Okay.
What transpired, wherein Rebecca was betrothed to Isaac, was traditional marriage.
Mm-hmm.
But if you fast forward it, you will discover that during the Christian era, we developed new tradition. Some of them were not exactly like the one we experienced in the Old Testament. Like now having Holy Communion. There was no such thing as Holy Communion in the Old Testament. Will you now say because there was no Holy Communion in the Old Testament, you will not practice it in the New Testament? I am talking to Christians, remember. I am not talking to non-Christians. For non-Christians, or for people who just go to church ordinarily, let me use the word, for born-again Christians, I'm talking to born-again Christians. For those who are not born-again Christians, if you just choose to have traditional wedding and no more, that does not mean it is not sanctioned of God. No. Anybody who says it's not sanctioned of God will be wrong. It is sanctioned of God. But for those who have decided to comply with the tradition of the church, remember I made mention of Matthew chapter 15 verse 3, where Christ asked them, where do you disobey the commandment of God? By your own traditions. Which means that the Christendom has traditions too. You can see that in 2 Thessalonians chapter 3 verse 6. 2 Thessalonians chapter 3 verse 6 says there is a tradition. That the Christian world has a tradition. And one of them is white wedding. It is not an European thing.
So you're saying that white wedding is the tradition of Christians?
Yes, it is traditional.
So it's our own traditional marriage?
It is our, no, it is not really a traditional marriage, but it's our own way. Yes, it came with Christianity, so to say, because it's our own way of bringing God into our marriage. You know, like we said, without it, we may not have a refuge to run to when there is a problem. You see, and in white wedding, you make vows, unlike traditional weddings, and you make it before the holy God, which you obey, which you worship, and you're expected to obey those vows unconditionally. So the difference between a white wedding and a traditional wedding is so glaring. But the white wedding also expects you, before you come for the white wedding, to have done your traditional wedding. That's what people don't realize.
Okay, now the Europeans. But before that, there's a question for you here. Are you trying to tell me that a marriage is not complete without the white marriage? That's white wedding. Point of correction: white marriage is borrowed culture from our colonial masters. From our traditional marriage is the recognized marriage as far as Africa is concerned. So anyone telling us that the white marriage is complete marriage is creating division. And now we've got, this is coming from Owago Emmanuel. And we have another one coming, please, from Prince Nonso Silva. Please, the traditional marriage is a sine qua non to any other marriage. It is immaterial whether you are a Christian or not. We have Samuel Elekwa. Good afternoon, my beautiful lady, Ruth Ohams and co. Happy Sunday to you. Please, Barris, I have a question for you. Is it a crime or sin? Is it a crime or sin to do traditional marriage without white wedding? Oh, God. But Stanley Rentals in Memme, thank you. Thank you so much. You're watching from Radio Moma, local government areas, River State. Keep up the good work. We love Magic FM. Thank you so much. Second question. Europeans and Jacob, did he have white wedding too?
No, actually when I was speaking earlier, I told us that all through the Old Testament, what we had was traditional wedding. But of course, you know that Christianity, as it were, came from the Europeans.
Okay.
That's the truth. And then one of the things it came with is the white wedding. Like I said, until 1756, it is not required in the Anglican Church that white wedding must take place before a couple is pronounced married. So this came earlier. But like every organization you belong, you are duty bound to follow what that organization prescribe as their rules. Okay. Otherwise, you will be doing wrong. Now, we are first of all Africans before we become Christians. And that's why even Christianity, the church, insists that you should go and perform the African tradition as far as marriage is concerned before the white wedding. And that is not to say that the white wedding is inferior to traditional wedding. Okay. So we must understand this from the perspective of Christian, like Paris said. As a Christian, you must, as a matter of fact, subject yourself to that blessing of the church for so many reasons. Now understand too that where we have issue, like our sister, the first caller, mentioned, is on how elaborate this white wedding, it takes place. This white wedding takes place. I have presided a wedding where that's done on a Tuesday after Bible study. The both party that had done the traditional wedding, where they came and then they were blessed and they started living their life. The truth about it is that if you're a Christian, you should, as a matter of fact, subject yourself to the white wedding. But before then, as you're cutting with your wife, discuss this so that the matter we are looking at will not repeat itself, where the marriage has to be broken because
Disagree. Yeah. Okay, Ememan Naso says, Echefulachi says, I like this program, but I disagree with what the man said in the aspect of saying that white wedding is superior to traditional wedding. Let him show me where white wedding was done in the Bible. What the Bible says is bride price, and bride price is not paid in the white wedding. So you're wrong by saying white wedding is superior to traditional marriage. And let the pastor and the barrister please explain to me the meaning of bride price, when it is paid, where it is paid, and what it is paid for. Maybe we'll continue that in another aspect of the happy family hour. But at this juncture, I can't take more calls. So sorry. Join us next week, Sunday, for another edition of the Happy Family Hour. Thank you so much, Reverend Dr. Dan Emadubese. Thank you.
Thank you.
He is the minister of the gospel. You and your spouse, the convener. He has lots of books on marriages and relationship. He's just good at what he does. And of course, we've got Barrister Chukwuedozie Agone Chamber, the principal partner, Bob Land Chambers, located at number 115 Jubilee Road. Thank you so much for always doing this with us.
Thank you so much.
I am Ruth Ohams, the radio home girl. I'll be leaving you in the hands of yours truly. Ekele is the title of this one. I am Ruth Ohams, your radio home girl. Do have a wonderful afternoon. Do stay tuned for the afternoon drive coming up very soon. Bye-bye. Of course, sit there down. Don't sit there down. I will just come for life.
The most important
I knew. Because once Barrister said, white wedding is that about will just be on today. I just knew. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Then the submission. Yes, I'm looking for a woman that will also that of submission. Thank you so much, sir. Okay, everyone, thank you so much for being part of my life. Join us next week Sunday for another edition of the Happy Family Hour. We're doing this every Sunday of in the month of November. Yeah, every Sunday in the month of November, we'll be having amazing, interesting topics to talk about. Okay, thank you so much. I've got to go now. Have yourselves a beautiful, wonderful, amazing new week. Remember, God loves you. What can I say? Bye. And don't forget, the live video will be on. You can go watch, just in case you missed it. You can just go and I'll be saving it right here on my YouTube channel. So you can go there, watch it. You can also drop your comment because I'll be taking the comment next Sunday for those who weren't able to join us. So thank you so much. Thank you guys. Thank you so much. Ekeleba, yours truly is playing right now. You are my destiny changer. You are my miracle worker. You are my great maker. That's my song. Yeah. I am on a babando, I'll negotiate the maggie. Wow, Tito, me, so. I am one babando. Haline go say the mage. How do I end this thing? Hey, Tito, we na kiwe. Hey, Tito, after this song, I don't want to end it now. After this song, I want to end it. You know what I can do. People are online. How do I end it after this? How do I end it after?
You can't see it now.
I want it to be saved on my list.
You should be saved on your YouTube. And that will be alive. You will see it on your channel.
Correct sound. Correct sound.
Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready to see the biggest stars?
And your name is?
My name's Charlie XCX. I'm a Togo.
Yes, and your Chico Pitbull.
Hi, this is Megan Trainor. This is Ariana Grande.
More music coming on your radio now. Magic 102.9.
Lifting up the name of Jesus. Welcome to the world of Christian music. It's not just music, it's music that cleans your soul and glorifies our God. So get ready to be blessed and fill your soul with music from
Magic 102.9 ABBA.
Ready.
For Jesus, tell me who I for him. celebration. We are one to the nine in the air. Magic City, radio number one in the air. Magic City, so we are one to the nine in the air. Magic City, radio number one in the air. Magic City, Miami, turn on your radio. Hey, Krista says so. Let's go this moment with your man, Cristiano.
Hello, my name is Crystal, and you're listening to Magic 102.9 Apa Ogwan.
Yes, so he has put my enemies to shame. That's what the song is saying. Just in case you're not understanding the language. Hey, agamaturu ya mama. Thank you, Jacqueline. Thank you for the way. God bless you. Otiye wondiro munanya miri, agamatoro ya mama. 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 Hey.
Onye mmehie nwere n'onwe ya atọ dịka
woniro mulaya miri, agamaturu ya mama. Otiye woniro mulaya miri, agamaturu ya mama. Otiye woniro mulaya miri, agamaturu ya mama. Otiye woniro mulaya miri, agamaturu ya mama. Hey! Yes, sir. Alright guys, thank you so much for being part of my live YouTube series today. I look forward to doing this with you on Tuesday. Join us Tuesday 1 p.m. Thank you. Bye-bye.
So we are water to the night in the air. Magic City, radio number one in the air. Magic City.
Okay,